Hey, look out. It's Faith Talk Live. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Radcliffe.
From across the pond, one of our favorites there. He's author, speaker, Andy Bannister. He's got a new book coming out in July 4th. Imagine that. It's called Do Muslims and Christians Worship the Same God? Andy, how are you?
I'm doing well. That was the last book, Rick, actually. The new book has got a totally different title, but that's not a problem. We can talk about either of them.
Oh, I'm sorry. What is the new book?
The new book is How to Talk About Jesus Without Looking Like an Idiot.
I've
got a new one coming after that, I think, called How to Present a Radio Show. But I'll. Last year we did Do Muslims and Christians.
Okay.
This year we have How to Talk About Jesus Without Looking Like an Idiot. And you should say 4th of July.
Yeah. Well, let's do that. We'll talk about that one. And by the way,
we can talk about any book you like.
Okay. When Andy's not authoring or speaking, he's doing stand-up. So be sure to check out, because he's a very funny man.
I tend to do sit down. I'm 5'7". It looks more impressive.
It's good to have you. It's been a while, and I can't remember what we talked about when we talked to you before. I asked Dan if we had seen you in person and sat down with you in person, and he says no.
It's always been on the phone.
I think it's always been on it. It must have been a while ago, Rick, because I'm sure your beard was half that length. And that's how you measure time these days, beard length.
I may have been clean shaven at that time. It's been so long. Well,
that would have been a while ago. Yes.
Well, let's catch up with you. You're there in your home, and we appreciate your time. Tell us about the new book. What's the title again, and what's it all about?
Yeah, so the title is, as I say, How to Talk About Jesus Without Looking Like an Idiot, a panic-free guide to having natural conversations about your faith. And the big idea behind this is I meet so many Christians in churches across the UK when I was in North America who would love, I think, to talk to their friends at work, at school, at home, at college about their faith, but they're just nervous. They're afraid of what will happen. They're afraid of bad things happening. They're afraid of looking stupid. They're afraid of getting cancelled, fired, and all kinds of trouble. And so I regularly meet people, I think, who feel quite guilty about not talking about their faith more. And then I notice there's all these great books on evangelism written, but often people don't read those because we tend to think, well, I'm not an evangelist, I'm a coward, so I'm not going to read those. I wanted to write a book for people like me who don't find it easy. I mean, yeah, I stand in front of crowds. That's easy to do. But I find the personal evangelism as hard as the next guy or girl. So I wanted to write the book that I wish someone had given to me like 20 years ago. So that's what it's designed to do. If you are the kind of person listening to this who the prospect of evangelism does not immediately fill you with joy and excitement, but more the kind of, the sort of goosebumps inside, this is the book for you, I hope.
Now, this may be an easy question, but why is it easy to stand in front of thousands of people to talk about faith, but one-on-one we freeze up and we go, ah?
Well, I think when you're doing stuff like in front of a crowd, or you guys, you do it on the radio, online and stuff, there's a couple of things. Firstly, the connection with people is a bit odd, right? If I last night I did an evangelism event for a church a couple of hours from here. We had 200 people out. I mean, it was a lively crowd. There was some tough questions, but at the end of the day, I'm going to walk away, probably never see those people again. So if I made a total doofus of myself, well, at least I never need to see that crowd. I mean, hopefully, God willing, I didn't. But if you're talking to a friend, to a neighbor, to a colleague, you're going to see them each day. Each day I come at my house, I see my next door neighbor. And, for my wife and I, thinking, well, how do we build relationships with her? How do we find ways to bring conversations about faith into conversation with someone we see every day, who there's going to be that ongoing relationship with? Family is another one. I hear people say, our relationships with our family can be complex. If we've got, children or spouses or siblings or parents or whoever who aren't Christians, navigating those conversations can be tough. And then, of course, workplace is a whole other thing. I can stand on a stage, you can go on, on your show and say things in a way that you can't do in a workplace setting if you're in a secular setting. So how do we do that? How do we have conversations in those contexts? That was what I wanted to address in the book, and do it with the usual mix, like all my books have, a mixture of kind of sort of humor and some sort of self-deprecating stuff, a bit of sort of sort of surreal British stuff there too. So hopefully it's a book that'll make you laugh, and it's a book that will make you go, you know what, I could do this. God could actually even use me.
Andy Bannister with us. The book is not out. You can pre-order it. I'm looking now on Amazon. How to Talk About Jesus without looking like an idiot, a panic-free guide to having natural conversations about your faith. And Andy, honestly, not just because you're in front of me here, I'm really looking forward to this book, because I find that the old methods of sharing sometimes can get clunky, and I'm more relaxed in my own skin, although I've not seen any books about, how to share in my own skin. But I love what you've done. I think that most of us, and maybe I'm just dreaming, I think most of us really do want to share our faith. It's just hard for us to put on Saul's sword and do it.
Yeah, I think you're right, and the reason we went for the title we did in the end is we danced around the publisher and I various titles and things, but actually, just cut to the chase. The fear that most of us have is we're going to look like an idiot. It's going to go badly wrong.
Right.
And I actually start the book, in a quite a self-deprecating way. Really, I tell the story of when I was in the secular workplace. Before I was in ministry, I worked for a local hospital, doing kind of medical conferences and all. And for the 6 years I was there, I never talked about my faith. In fact, I was very much an undercover Christian, which I've always thought would make a great title for a movie, Undercover Christian. People sneaking around, trying not to be outed. That was me. I said nothing. I did nothing. I was actively involved in my local church, but inside work, I just said nothing but abject fear. And it was only later, as I look back, I went, okay, what was I terrified of? And that's in a sense, I've written the book that I wish, if time travel were possible, I could get into the hands of the 23-year-old me. And so I think a lot of us struggle with this. And then, of course, the other thing that happens, guys, isn't it, is I think when you struggle a bit sharing your faith, then you don't share your faith so naturally, but then you know that you should, and you feel guilty, and the whole guilt cycle kicks in, and that makes it even worse, because you feel this terrible second-rate Christian. You think everybody else, sit there and think, well, Dan and Rick are obviously leading all their next door neighbors to Christ. I mean, they obviously are so good at it. Why am I struggling? And it just gets worse. And so again, this book tries to cut through all of that, teach some very practical, natural tools, really, not clever. There's no sort of 4-step methods in here or any of that nonsense. Right. Really, it's designed to help you learn just how to have more natural, more engaging, more chilled out conversations, beginning from where your friends are at. That will just start spiritual conversations. I don't guarantee you read the book and you'll be leading the neighborhood to Christ, but I do hope you'll read the book and you'll feel much more ready just to have conversations in a natural, engaging, winsome way, as you would equally if you were talking about the sports, the footy game, the soccer game you'd seen last night, or the movie you'd watch. We talk about those things with no problems. Why do we find it hard to talk about the thing that matters the most to us? That's what this book is designed to help you do.
Good.
So you're saying, Andy, that having a British accent doesn't make everything easier in talking about it. Is that right?
Obviously, a British accent does help, and I do realise that you're feeling deeply inadequate. But that's don't worry. I mean, Rick's beard is compensating, and your background with the palm trees is compensating. So yes, I do miss, actually, one of the things I love about living in North America for 6 years, guys, was that my accent kind of opened doors, whereas over here it shuts doors. Actually, people just
so Andy, I'm interested not only in the new book again, which comes out July 4th, but also the last book that you wrote, Do Muslims and Christians Worship the Same God? What's the answer, Andy? I need to know the answer.
Well, yes, there's a question. Well, if I told you directly, the publisher would be after me with a stick with a nail in it. So,
very true.
And well, I'm going to be a little bit cheeky and say the answer is, well, the first story, actually, when this book came out about 18 months ago or something like that, I got attacked on two sides on Twitter. I know you find the idea of people getting attacked on Twitter an astonishing prospect.
That never happened.
Rainbows and unicorns and kittens everywhere.
Yeah.
I got attacked from two groups of people. One group of people came after me saying, why are you writing a book with that title? It's obvious the answer is yes. Another group of people coming after me saying, why are you writing this book? The answer is obviously no.
Yeah.
I was like, well, Here we go then. The conclusion I guess I come to is that the answer is 85% no and 15% yes, depending on who you're talking to. Because the problem, I think, with it, Dan, is that it's one of those questions that is a little bit complex. There are some questions that require more than just a soundbite answer. And this is one of them. You see, if you ask the question, does the Quran, the scripture of Islam, describe the same God as the God of the Bible? I am very confident in saying the answer is no. It's a very, very different understanding of God, wildly different understanding of God. Do you, though, however, meet individual Muslims sometimes who, as they describe to you the God that they are worshipping and the God they are seeking for, does that actually sound more like the God of the Bible? I think the answer is yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, I had a dear friend of mine, you may well have had him on the show years ago, Nabil Qureshi.
Right.
Seeking Allah, finding Jesus. Many people listening to the show may have read that book, New York Times bestseller. Well, that was Nabil's story, right? He desperately wants to know God more, and then this amazing discovery that actually the God he was searching for, a God who is personal, a God who could be known, a God who could genuinely forgive him, a God who is love, actually turns out to be the God of the Quran, the God of the Bible, rather, as revealed in Jesus, not the God of the Quran. And so that's why I sort of play it that way. So yeah, the book really, there's a deep dive into the God of the Quran and shows it's very different. And then I look in the book at 4 questions: who is God? Who are human beings? What's gone wrong with the world? And what's the solution? Show how Islam and Christianity are very, very different on all of their answers, but actually show people how when you explore those questions, actually it points so naturally to Jesus. And it's hopefully it's a helpful book for Christians wanting to talk to those in other faiths. And hopefully it's a helpful book if you have Muslim friends, neighbors, and colleagues to give them a copy of.
Andy Bannister, author and speaker, you can check out his stuff there at andybannister.net. I just noticed, let me pop this back up on my computer. You can pre-order How to Talk About Jesus Without Looking Like an Idiot, a panic-free guide to having natural conversations about your faith. It comes out July the 4th, and you can pre-order. I just noticed the foreword is by Lee Strobel, and he, Andy, is also one of our favorite guests.
Oh, fantastic. Lee was brilliant. Yeah, so kind of him. We reached out to him and he was like, I did us the honor of writing of the forward, which is great because if you like Lee Strobel and hate Andy Bannister, buy the book anyway. Because you get Lee's forward. And if you've read enough of Lee's stuff anyway, I think, how many books I've lost track now of what he's written. The Case for Everything, I think.
He has the case for everything.
Yeah. If you bought all these books, you would actually need a case to put them all into, kind of thing. So no, that was fantastic. So grateful to Lee for doing the forward.
Yeah. Pre-order the book and check out Andy's website. You can get so much stuff there. It's andybannister.net. Andy, you're fun to be with, and we love your content. We love your books. We'd love to have you back. Blessings to you. We got to take a break. We'll be right back. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
This is Faith Talk Live.